What began as a chance encounter at an auto shop quickly spiraled into a chilling nightmare that would baffle investigators for years. When Dave Kroupa met Cari Farver, it seemed like the start of something new. Two people connecting, laughing, and finding comfort in each other's company. But just days after their whirlwind romance began, Cari vanished. In her place came a flood of disturbing messages, mysterious sightings, and a relentless wave of threats that targeted everyone in Dave's life. What no one realized was that behind the screen lurked someone far more dangerous than they ever imagined. So, what really happened to Cari Farver? And how did a love triangle unravel into one of the most twisted stalking cases in modern history? Let's dive into this unbelievable true story. In 2012, Dave Kroupa, 34, moved to Omaha, Nebraska, to start managing an auto repair shop he had recently inherited. Shortly before this, he had separated from his wife, Amy Flora. They have 2 children together, and for the sake of their kids, they remain on good terms and see each other regularly. Dave was trying to find a new woman to date, so he created profiles on several dating sites. He was friendly, sociable, and easygoing, so many people were interested in meeting him and starting a relationship. At the time, he wasn't looking for anything long-term or serious. He was content to enjoy fun, casual moments with women. One autumn day in 2012, Cari Farver visited Dave's auto repair shop to have her car checked. Cari was a 37-year-old single mother with a 14-year-old son who aspired to become a programmer. When Dave met her, he was instantly infatuated and asked her out on a date, but she declined, saying he wasn't her type. He was captivated by her and wanted to get her attention. He later found her online and sent her a message. Although she didn't respond immediately, she eventually replied, and they began communicating. When she returned to the shop for more car work, he invited her to dinner again, and this time she accepted. Cari was a cheerful, independent, and energetic woman. In school, she had been among the top students, and teachers believed she had a promising future. She was close to her mother, dear friends, and acquaintances. She always wore a smile and never gave up, no matter the situation. Her life changed significantly at age 22 when she became pregnant by her boyfriend. He didn't want to take responsibility and refused to help raise the child. This didn't deter her, though. She quickly decided to keep the baby, become a single mother, and not depend on him. She paused her university studies to find a job and moved into an apartment near her mother, Nancy. Eventually, she graduated from college and secured a higher-paying IT job. Being a mother came naturally to her, and her life revolved around her son, Max. She chose not to pursue new relationships, dedicating herself entirely to her child. Dave's first date with Cari went very well. She was thrilled about their time together and later shared on social media that she hadn't laughed so much in years. Their conversation flowed easily, as if they had known each other forever, and Cari was eager to continue the relationship. Dave also wanted to build something romantic with her. He even confessed that he was in love with her and decided to stop talking to other women on dating sites for her. Before Dave met Cari, he had been seeing another woman named Shauna Elizabeth Gollier, who went by Liz. She was the first person he met online after separating from his wife. He found her sweet and cheerful. Both had children around the same age, and she was also interested in an open relationship, which aligned with Dave's mindset at the time. Liz managed a small business and took care of household responsibilities. They felt compatible and had been seeing each other regularly for the past 6 months, maintaining a sexual relationship. Over time, Liz became increasingly difficult. She wanted to spend more and more time with Dave, but he didn't like this and preferred to keep things casual. Their relationship began to deteriorate, and Dave started to distance himself. Liz kept interfering in his life, often giving unsolicited advice which stressed him out. She was also aware that Dave had been dating other women before Cari and felt very dissatisfied with all of them. Dave wanted to break up with Liz and even suggested she date other people, but she refused to break up and deleted her dating profile. She became jealous of other women, including Cari, and even of Dave's children and ex-wife. As a result, he frequently had to reassure her. During a date with Cari, Dave noticed multiple missed calls and texts from Liz. She insisted on coming into his apartment immediately because she had forgotten something during her last visit. Dave told her he was with his girlfriend and couldn't let her in at that moment, but he could help her after he got home. Liz kept pressing him to let her in, claiming she urgently needed her belongings. In the end, Dave agreed. He and Cari returned to his place. When they arrived, Liz showed up, pounding on the door and angrily demanding entry. Naturally, this situation ruined their evening, but Cari was understanding. She suggested that Dave handle the situation with Liz first. Then they could go to her house where they wouldn't be disturbed. And that's exactly what they did. Dave opened the door, returned Liz's items, and then he and Cari left together. Cari's drive back to Macedonia, Iowa, took about an hour. The next morning, she told Dave she was happy with how things were going between them. She didn't want a serious relationship, marriage, or more children. She just wanted to enjoy their time together. This mutual understanding brought them closer, as they shared similar views on relationships. Their connection thrived on honesty and compatibility. Dave found her very attractive, smart, and charming. Over the next 2 weeks, they saw each other almost every day. Even though Cari lived in a neighboring city in another state, she still made time to visit Dave during the day for lunch or to spend time together. She often stayed overnight. She had a high-paying job, holding a key position at a large IT company. Most of her time was dedicated to work and her son, leaving only a little for herself, something that suited Dave's lifestyle perfectly. In early November, Dave began to seriously consider changing one of his main rules, possibly moving in with Cari. Around the same time, while traveling in Thailand, Cari received several friend requests on social media from strangers. One request stood out. It came from someone in her hometown of Macedonia. Curious, she messaged the person to ask if they knew each other, but never got a reply. She mentioned it to Dave, but they didn't think much of it at the time. On the morning of November 13, 2012, Dave woke up early and saw Cari working on her laptop, putting the final touches on a project she was set to present to management that day. She kissed him goodbye and left, planning to meet up again in the evening. Later that day, Dave received a surprising message from Cari, asking if he wanted to move in with her. This was unexpected, since just a few days earlier, they had agreed to keep the relationship casual and not live together. Although Dave had been entertaining the idea himself, the sudden shift made him uncomfortable. He politely declined and reminded her of their previous conversation. The response he received was shocking. Instead of an understanding reply, he was met with a barrage of insults and hateful messages. The tone was hysterical and threatening, completely out of character for the woman he knew. Dave was stunned. The words didn't sound like Cari at all. He decided to cut off communication, and after finishing work, went home. When he arrived, he noticed that all of Cari's belongings were gone. He assumed she had broken up with him and taken her things. A few days later, police officers showed up at the auto repair shop where Dave worked. They informed him that Cari was missing. He was the last known person to see her. He had kissed her goodbye that morning as she left for work, but she had never arrived. Since then, no one had heard from her. Dave told the investigators he had no idea what had happened and shared the strange messages he received. He explained that the tone was aggressive and rude, so unlike the Cari he knew, that it had made him wonder if it was really her sending them. Detectives then contacted Cari's family to reconstruct her last known activities. On the morning of November 13th, 2012, Cari's mother, Nancy, received a concerning message from her daughter. Cari said she had broken up with Dave and was now in a mental hospital following a nervous breakdown. Nancy was alarmed. She immediately began calling hospitals, but couldn't find Cari admitted anywhere. Meanwhile, Cari failed to show up at work on a very important day. She was scheduled to present a major project to management. Her absence raised serious concerns about her well-being. Later, Cari's employer received a message stating that she had accepted a new job in Kansas and would no longer be working there. This surprised the management, as she was known to take her work very seriously. Around the same time, Cari's son Max also received a message from her, saying she was going to her brother's wedding. The wedding took place without her. These conflicting and suspicious messages alarmed her family, colleagues, and friends. They didn't seem believable. No one could imagine Cari leaving her son and moving to another state just for a job opportunity. It seemed clear that she was either hiding something or in serious trouble. Concerned, her relatives filed a missing person report. Dave was completely confused and in disbelief over what was happening. He gave police full access to inspect his car and mobile phone. He cooperated fully with the investigation and did everything he could to help find Cari. He explained that their relationship had only started a few weeks prior, but they had grown very close in that short time. Cari had always been calm and composed, so the aggressive messages he began receiving after her disappearance were deeply unsettling. These messages, filled with insults and threats, were sent through social media. The police believed Dave, in part because of his voluntary cooperation and his emotional distress over Cari's disappearance. He even passed a polygraph test, which helped confirm he had no involvement in her vanishing. Detectives then told Dave something important. Cari had previously been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. They explained that if she had stopped taking her medication, she could experience psychotic episodes, which might explain the sudden shift in her behavior and the aggressive messages. They reassured Dave that if she was found and began taking her medication again, the strange behavior would likely stop. Dave felt somewhat relieved by this and promised to alert the police if she ever contacted him again. The situation only worsened. Dave began receiving disturbing messages daily, sometimes up to 60 a day, from anonymous social media accounts. These messages often included threats and hateful rants, not only targeting Dave but also any women associated with him. These threats left Dave deeply frightened. He reported them to the police again. One of his ex-girlfriends also came forward, revealing that she had received similar threatening messages after just one date with Dave. One message warned her that if she continued seeing him, her child would be in danger. Terrified, she broke off all contact with Dave. Things escalated further when Dave's friends started receiving anonymous messages accusing him of abusing women. These accusations began spreading widely, even on dating sites, and strangers started sending him hostile messages. Dave had to constantly defend himself, stating the allegations were completely false and unsupported by any evidence. Dave's life turned into a nightmare. People avoided him. His reputation was destroyed. Meanwhile, Cari, whom he had fallen in love with, had been missing for over 3 weeks, and police had no leads. There were no signs of her movements, no activity on her phone, and no transactions on her bank accounts. Many began to believe she was dead, but her family desperately needed to know what happened, to find her body and get answers. Dave, still being harassed and threatened, reached out to police again. Unfortunately, they told him their resources were focused on the ongoing missing person investigation and that they couldn't allocate more to tracking the threatening messages. Then, in January 2013, Dave made an unexpected discovery. Cari's Ford Explorer was parked in a lot near an apartment building. He immediately contacted the police. They inspected the vehicle. It had a scratch on one side but was otherwise intact. Oddly, there were no fingerprints on the exterior, or even the steering wheel, not even Cari's, as if someone had deliberately wiped them off. Investigators found a single fingerprint on a can of mints inside the car. It didn't match Cari's and wasn't in any national database. The interior of the car was spotless, except for a faint pink stain on the passenger seat, which looked like spilled strawberry smoothie. After processing, the car was returned to Cari's parents, who later sold it. Meanwhile, the threats against Dave became even more chilling, and the harassment continued without pause. Dave kept receiving photos of his window, along with messages claiming that the sender had a spare key and intended to break into his house and harm him. They also sent photos of Dave's children with threats. Later, they even threatened his neighbor. One day, he received a photo of a woman resembling his neighbor, tied up in a car trunk. Frightened, he immediately called his neighbor to check on her. Thankfully, she was at home and safe. During this tense period, Dave tried to dismiss the threats and hoped they would stop. This shared danger brought him closer to his neighbor, who was also being targeted by the same person. Dave and his neighbor began communicating more frequently, sharing their fears and experiences. Often, while watching movies together, they would simultaneously receive threatening and insulting messages on their phones. After receiving several disturbing photos, including ones of his children, Dave contacted the police again. Unfortunately, the investigators seemed indifferent and took no real action to resolve the issue. Frustrated, Dave submitted a report to a special unit in Omaha that handled harassment cases. Sadly, the department had only one overburdened specialist managing 94 cases, leaving Dave without help. Feeling desperate, he had no choice but to endure the situation and try to move on. He began to suspect that someone with serious mental health issues was behind the harassment, but he had no evidence. Meanwhile, Cari's father had passed away, and her family grew increasingly concerned when she didn't attend the funeral. Instead, they received a vague text message from her apologizing for her absence. Months had passed since anyone had actually heard her voice. Her family began to suspect that she was not the one sending the messages at all. In the spring of 2013, a man contacted Cari's mother, Nancy. He claimed Cari had called him and said she was staying at a homeless shelter and wanted to be picked up. Nancy reported this to the police, and together they went to the shelter. But when they arrived, they learned that Cari had never been there. Through the courts, Nancy was granted custody of Cari's son, Max, who had been living with them the entire time. Meanwhile, Dave's relationship with his neighbor became rocky. They constantly broke up and got back together. She grew increasingly irritable, and Dave began feeling uncomfortable around her. Eventually, in August 2013, they ended their relationship for good. Dave did not want a serious relationship, and she was frustrated by this. Not long after, Dave's garage was vandalized. A few days later, the house his ex-neighbor was renting caught fire. The fire wasn't severe, and the rescue team managed to save the house, though it required repairs. Tragically, a dog and a cat died in the fire, and she and her 2 children had to move in with relatives. She informed police that Cari, the same woman who had previously threatened her, was responsible for setting the fire. Soon afterward, Dave received a bizarre message, supposedly from Cari, claiming she was pregnant. Dave immediately knew this was impossible. He had undergone a vasectomy years earlier and could no longer father children. Moreover, he remembered that Cari had had a hysterectomy, which also made it impossible for her to become pregnant. This message made him increasingly suspicious that someone else was pretending to be Cari. 2 months later, a bright orange sign appeared outside Dave's auto repair shop, accusing him of abusing women. In January 2014, Dave's longtime girlfriend visited him one night. Just a few hours after they had gone to bed, someone threw a brick through the bathroom window. The incident left Dave shaken and made him realize the situation had spiraled completely out of control and had become truly dangerous. With the police still refusing to act, Dave decided to disappear. He moved to a new house, got a different job, changed his phone number and all his contact details, and even bought a firearm for protection. He withdrew from public life and avoided contact with others. Eventually, he returned to the dating world, registering on a dating site under a different name. He arranged a date with a new woman, but she never showed up. Instead, Dave received a threatening message from Cari. It turned out the woman he was supposed to meet had received a similar threat, and that's why she didn't attend the date. Dave's neighbor also received an email filled with anger and threats. It was signed by someone named Amy Flora, Dave's ex-wife. This led the neighbor to suspect that Amy might be behind everything. Unable to reach Dave, she contacted the police and reported the stalking. The theory seemed plausible. After all, Amy had every reason to resent Dave after the divorce. Around the same time, Dave's gun went missing, suggesting a possible break-in at his home. Fearing for his safety, he reported the incident to the police. As the situation continued to spiral out of control, the authorities finally decided to take the stalking case more seriously. Their primary focus remained Cari's disappearance, but as new details emerged, investigators began to question the idea that Cari herself was responsible for the threats. They found it suspicious that Cari, who had only dated Dave for about 2 weeks, would suddenly start threatening him and everyone around him. It didn't make sense for a woman with a good job, a son she adored, and a supportive family to abandon everything for a man she'd just met, then turn hostile. This led detectives to suspect that someone had kidnapped Cari and assumed her identity to send these messages. Then, on December 5, 2015, Liz Gollier, Dave's ex-girlfriend, called 911. She claimed she had been attacked while walking home late at night through a park. Liz said she saw a shadow in the darkness before being attacked from behind. Her assailant reportedly asked, "Do you still like Dave?" before shooting her in the leg. Liz insisted that the attacker resembled Amy Flora. Thankfully, Liz's injuries were minor, and she was taken to the hospital. Police visited Amy to follow up. She denied any involvement and cooperated with authorities. During the investigation, officers learned that Amy had received numerous threats from an unknown woman in recent weeks. She explained that she had recently been in more frequent contact with her ex-husband Dave, which seemed to trigger the threats. Amy allowed the police to search her home, and nothing suspicious was found. She also had an alibi for the night of the attack, which was verified. Additionally, detectives confirmed that she had indeed received threatening messages, leading them to clear her as a suspect. Despite this, Liz continued to insist that Amy was the one who shot her. Liz couldn't explain how she recognized the shooter's face in the dark, especially when she claimed to have been terrified and caught off guard. Her account raised doubts. To support her claim, Liz presented a printed email that she said was a confession from Amy. The email described the attack in detail and included specific information about Cari's disappearance. It stated that on the morning of November 13, 2012, Cari logged into her social media account at approximately 6:45 a.m. and then logged in again 3 hours later to unfriend Dave. According to the email, this was when Cari was abducted, The email included highly specific details, accurate descriptions of Cari's tattoos, including one not listed on the missing persons flyer, injuries allegedly inflicted to her abdomen or chest, and a claim that her body had been burned and discarded in a trash bin. It also contained private information about Cari's car and house that had never been made public. These disturbing details led investigators to believe the email's author had first-hand knowledge of what happened to Cari. They concluded that Cari had likely been murdered more than 3 years earlier. They didn't believe Amy had written the confession. It didn't align with her personality or behavior, and the message itself felt staged and unconvincing, almost like a clumsy attempt to frame her. At this point, suspicion turned to Liz Golyer, the same person who had supplied the email. Investigators began digging deeper. A forensic analysis of Liz's phone revealed that she had deleted certain data. They discovered she had been using an app to encrypt her location, making it difficult to trace the origin of the threatening messages. Meanwhile, Nancy, Cari's mother, became more involved in the investigation. She was convinced that the messages sent to Cari's relatives after her disappearance weren't written by her daughter. They contained strange grammatical errors and an unusual tone. Cari had always been polite, articulate, and well-spoken, and these messages didn't sound like her at all. The police eventually discovered that Liz had become completely obsessed and detached from reality. In an effort to terrorize Dave, she went so far as to shoot herself. It was shocking, but investigators continued working tirelessly to uncover the full truth. Dave was devastated to learn of Liz's deception. For over 3 years, she had hidden her actions, sending more than 15,000 messages. She devoted 50 to 70 hours a week, essentially working a full-time job, just to stalk, manipulate, and harass. She used scheduled message timers to create alibis and maintain the illusion of innocence. All of this was driven by her possessiveness and obsession. Liz didn't want to share Dave with anyone, and was determined to win him back at any cost. After she was released from the hospital, detectives began questioning Liz more closely, hoping to gather information that could push the investigation forward. During interrogation, Liz was combative and angry. She insisted Amy Flora, Dave's ex-wife, should be jailed, claiming Amy was dangerous. She also presented new letters supposedly containing additional confessions from Amy, including specific details about Cari's murder, such as her being killed in her own car from the passenger seat. But detectives knew those details were false. They told Liz that Amy and Dave were back together, gauging her reaction. As expected, Liz lost control and became furious. Continuing to press Liz, investigators told her they needed more evidence to charge Amy. Eager to implicate Amy, Liz started revealing more details about the alleged crime, details that only someone involved would know. How did Liz know so much? Detectives decided to re-examine Cari's car, which had been sold by her parents. With permission from the new owners, they conducted a thorough inspection. When they removed the seat covers, they found a large bloodstain on the seat and smaller stains underneath. DNA testing confirmed the blood was Cari's. Additionally, DNA traces belonging to Liz were found in the vehicle, further deepening suspicions. Later, during a search of Liz's computer, investigators uncovered thousands of photos, mostly selfies. But among them was one disturbing image, a leg with visible signs of decomposition. Investigators identified the leg through the tattoos. It belonged to Cari. After a lengthy digital investigation, authorities traced the IP address used to send the threatening messages and fabricated confessions. It was linked to a man named Gareth, Liz's ex-boyfriend. Gareth had been in a long-term relationship with someone he believed to be Shauna Golyer. He had no idea that Liz had been manipulating people, spinning lies and conspiracies about Cari's disappearance. Police searched Gareth's home but found nothing useful. When they searched Liz's previous residence, they discovered several mobile phones and electronic devices. Among them was a camera that had belonged to Cari. One of the phones was confirmed to have been used to call Cari's mother. It had a voice-changing app installed. Furthermore, a fingerprint found on a mint container inside Cari's car matched Liz's. The extent of Liz's cruelty was staggering. She had sent messages to Cari's mother and son for years, keeping them in a painful limbo by pretending Cari was alive. Cari's son, Max, even sent a message 3 years after her disappearance to the last number that had contacted him, pleading, "Oh, if you're really my mom, please come back. I want you to be with me at my graduation." In December 2016, Liz Golyar was finally arrested and charged with first-degree murder and concealment of a body. Her defense team chose a bench trial, placing the decision in the hands of a judge rather than a jury. Prosecutors argued that Liz had stabbed Cari to death in November 2012 while Cari was in her own car. They claimed Liz had waited for her outside Dave's house and attacked when Cari got in the vehicle. The evidence was overwhelming. During the trial, another disturbing story about Liz came to light. Years earlier, she had a young son named Cody. The boy's father, a man with a mental disability, loved Cody deeply. But Cody was found unconscious and later died of shaken baby syndrome. The father confessed and was imprisoned, but his family believed Liz was the real culprit and had manipulated him into confessing. The prosecution also revealed that Liz had stalked and harassed another woman, her ex-boyfriend's new partner, even after they married and had a child. On August 15, 2017, Liz Golyar was found guilty on all charges. She never admitted guilt and showed no remorse. Her attorney requested leniency, asking for a sentence of 30 years with parole eligibility after 15. But the prosecution argued that Liz lacked any humanity and didn't deserve a reduced sentence. The judge agreed, sentencing her to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Liz continues to deny her guilt and is appealing the verdict. Cari's family never recovered her body, which remains missing to this day. They long to find her remains, fulfill her wish of cremation, and finally scatter her ashes in peace.